All right. Good morning, everybody. I guess it is still morning. I had to double check for a second. It's been a long day already, it feels like. Yeah, I see lots of people popping in, and I guess we shall get started. So, welcome everybody to today's webinar on streamlining design with Canva brand kits and editing tools. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very proud to say that this webinar has broken a Business Link record for most registrations. So, we are expecting a full house today. I would love it if everyone could pop a quick message in the chat, just introducing yourself, where you're from, what you do, that kind of thing, so we can all get to know each other. I'll start. My name's Trina Argueta. I'm the manager of the Digital Economy program here at Business Link, which is a program that offers free digital marketing support to small business owners. Before we get started, Business Link acknowledges and respects that we are on traditional land, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places, and traveling routes of treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the lands of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. These webinars are one way that Business Link can help support your business. So if you haven't already, please check out the services and programs, including the Digital Economy program, and all the other good stuff that we offer at businesslink.ca. That brings us to our wonderful hosts. Megan and Ryan are here from Grand Prairie-based marketing agency 910. They're on a mission to help Alberta small businesses and entrepreneurs develop their brands with a capital B, establish their online presence, and become self-sufficient in activating their digital marketing strategies. 910 have a very special offer at the end of this presentation for attendees, so please stick around and take advantage of it. Because we have a full house today, just a quick note to keep us organized. Please put your questions in the Q&A below rather than the chat. That just makes sure that we aren't missing anybody and we can address all of your questions properly. If you do have to pop out or you want a refresher later, this webinar is recorded and a link will be sent to you once it's available on our YouTube channel. So if that sounds good to everybody, now I'm out of breath, but I will let the 910 team take it away.
Thank you, Trina, for the warm introduction. Seeing a lot of chats going on. So do use the chat for commentary, chatting between each other. If it's a question directed at us, do use the Q&A. Megan, go ahead and share the screen and we'll sort of jump into it. I'll give it an overview of really what we're going to cover today. So happy that this is a record-breaking webinar. A ton of you that are joining, and I'm seeing some familiar faces and also many people that are joining from within the province as well as out of the province. We do, although we're based in Grand Prairie, we serve sort of all of Western Canada. We actually do have clients out in the eastern parts of Canada as well. It's digital, right? It's pretty easy these days to work digitally. This is a partnership that we have with Business Link where we're doing a series of webinars, one a month for the entire year with a little bit of a break for Christmas and in the summer as well. And this is Canva Part 1, but we actually have Canva Part 2, which I understand that registration is open for that as well. So we'll probably tease that link at some point, or Trina, feel free to drop it in. And so, Megan, if you want to just go to the next part, and I'll quickly introduce the team and then hand it over to you without too much fanfare. So we're a small and nimble team based out of Grand Prairie, and we specialize as a team on, actually before I get to that, talk a little bit about, just recently we went through a merger with one of our primary competitors in the market, Image Design. So Image Design and 910 merged together. If you're outside of Grand Prairie, maybe that doesn't matter so much to you. But the thing to note there is that it really talks about collaboration. We collaborate directly with our direct competitors, with multiple organizations. Business Link is one of them, of course, Chambers of Commerce, Community Futures. And a common thread is that whenever we have a chance to collaborate on behalf of supporting entrepreneurs and small medium businesses, that's what we're doing. Trina gave a good overview of our mission and our vision, and it's effectively to support small medium businesses. There's some work that we do, and you can go to the next screen, Megan, which we call foundational work. It's work to establish your brand and to establish your online presence, but then really tie it together by teaching you how to activate those. So today's session is about Canva, but Canva is a tool, as you'll see, that allows non-designers to very easily manage and do brand compliant design. But that sort of has a presumption built in that you have a well-established brand. So as a branding agency, we can, yes, help to create a logo and visual brand standards, but then the most important part, give you a toolkit, a Canva brand kit, so that you can navigate that on your own. So for the next slide, talks about our next service, which is websites. We build websites, including e-commerce websites, and in this territory, there's lots of government grants out there. We actually collaborate through with Business Link. We have many clients that have been taking advantage of the CDAP, Canada Digital Adoption Program grant, where you can get a one-time 2,400 micro grant to upgrade to e-commerce, and that's typically part of your website as well. So that's some fun work that we do as well. And then the next division is our training academy. I should say real quickly, in the branding, we also do graphic design and print. But our training academy, this is what you're experiencing today. This is a snippet of the type of stuff that we cover in our training academy. So within our training academy, we have close to 20 different courses, including 3 new courses that just got introduced. Heavy focus on AI, lots of SEO, social media, website optimization, email marketing, all of the disciplines that fall under that umbrella that you would call digital marketing. So this is another program, as you'll hear, where we have a special offer at the tail end of this meeting, so do stick around for that. And our programming also qualifies for the Alberta Job Grant, which is a government program that is meant to help employers professionally develop the skill set of their employees, and we qualify for that as well. So really accessible for entrepreneurs and small, medium businesses. All right, so with that, I will hand it over to Megan, and I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A, and I will jump in a few times as we get going. So off to you, Megan.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for that lovely intro of 910. I'm really excited to be here. Personally, I manage a lot of the training academy stuff, so this is all my wheelhouse, and I'm so excited to jump into the next part of this with you. So today's focus, as Ryan mentioned, is on the branding side of things, looking at that visual activation. So if you were with us last month talking about brand with a capital B, this slide might look a little familiar to you. This particular framework looks at branding as a whole, but today we're really focusing in on this tiny little section over here, which is the visual identity, that kind of creative visual, that brand expression that we see so often. If we think about Coca-Cola, for example, that red and white, that flowy type of look, that's the visual identity that we're looking at activating today. So this is an example of what all goes into our visual brand identities, where we have our logos, different versions of our logos, colors, headings, fonts, different graphic elements and icons, even photography styles. And your visual brand can get as granular as setting out particular percentages for transparency when you're designing graphics. So this is all of the background work that goes in when you're working with a professional designer to start developing these really beautiful, consistent marketing graphics for your business. Before we get into the actual Canva part of it, there are some fundamentals that we want to focus on when it comes to graphic design. Now, this is something called the ABC design principle, and it is a very, very condensed, watered down version of graphic design. This, if I were to present this to one of our professional designers, they would say, okay, and what else, right? There's so much more to it. But when it comes to marketing design, as non-designers ourselves, it is important to follow some of those rules consistently so that we are producing the best work that we can and really showing up professionally in our marketing. So the ABC design principle is apparent. So this is making sure that your message is clear with whatever that is. That might be making sure that your heading is the focus, that you're using your font hierarchy is what we call it. So making sure that the main message is the first thing that people see. It is also about making sure that the very key information is the only thing that's there, so that we're not cluttering things with unnecessary information. Balanced is the second part of this. And this is where we get into some of the more kind of technical design stuff, where we want to make sure there's space in between our elements and that there's a good amount of space around our margins and that we're using our layers appropriately. There's also an element of psychology when we're looking at the balanced element of this, where as human beings, we're surrounded by stimulus coming at us from all directions at all times. And our brains are really good at efficiently and effectively processing a lot of that information, but there is a limit to that. We know that the more information and the more stimulus that are coming at us, the longer it's going to take to process all of that information and understand what all of that means. So when it comes to you and doing your designs, it's important to remember that the more information, the more colors, the more contrasting elements that you have in your design, the less likely it is for people to be able to process that information quickly. It is very unlikely that as people are scrolling through social media or just flipping through to look for different options for products and services, that they're actively seeking you out specifically. And they're less likely to stop and look and read what the information you have to say if their brains aren't able to quickly process what you're saying. So when we look at the balanced part of this, we're looking at making sure that there's not too much information coming at your audience at one time. The more mental effort it takes for somebody to process what they're seeing, the less likely they are to actually dive into looking at it. So that's a very important part of this. And then the last thing is consistency. So we talked about using our brand kit, right? We have set standards, right? To be able to consistently use colors, consistently use fonts. That's a huge part of our design principle, because this is what leads to brand recognition, brand equity, or where we can actually start putting things out without our logo being on it, and people will still recognize who we are.
I just want to jump in there, Megan, share an insight. Megan, you've heard this lots from our clients, where a lot of times businesses will feel like they're getting tired or bored with their own brand, their own colors, their own font, and just almost as though they're trying to add variety is the spice of life. We all know that. They will be changing up their brand and modifying the colors or the styles or the layout or whatever, really just to kind of keep it exciting for them. But you do not want to do that for your target market. There is so much stuff out there, and less is more. So you intentionally want to constrain your options, and you want to be consistent over time, so that when someone sees your post, your promotions, your social media graphic, whatever, for the 6th, the 7th, the 15th, the 20th time, there's some consistency. If you start to change it up too much, you'll lose that, and people won't be noticing it as much, and it will not have the same type of recall. So just a quick note, less is more sometimes when it comes to branding.
Yes, and that's exactly right. And that's something that in our learning community, which we'll talk about at the end of today's session, I consistently reiterate with students is that it might feel boring to you because you are seeing every piece of content that you're putting out. Your audience isn't. Your audience isn't going to see every single thing that you put out every day. Your audience isn't even going to be seeing maybe everything that you put out in a week, right? So they are also getting a diluted version of what you're putting out because there's so much other stuff in their newsfeed. So exactly what Ryan said, you might get bored and annoyed with having to look at your brand every single time you go into your Canva account, but I promise you, your audience is not getting bored. They are looking for familiarity, and that relationship that we build with our audience, part of that is through that familiarity and that consistency. That's really important. All right, I'm going to show a quick example here. This is a design that does not follow any of those rules. So I just want you to pop in the chat here. What are some of the things that you notice in this design that is wrong? What are some of the things that you maybe would do better? And we'll talk about some of those. I see, where's the Comic Sans? And that makes me laugh. The font is hard to read. Absolutely. That's one of the first things that people notice about this is the font. And this is something called an accent font or a script font. These are never meant to be used in large blocks like that. They are never meant to be used in a full sentence even, because they are so difficult to read, especially with this particular context. So we see there it's too wordy, it doesn't look serious, there's too much text and no focus on the cupcake. We're actually covering the cupcake, which means that the audience isn't actually really seeing it, right? There's so much going on. There's no white space, no visual hierarchy, exactly right. One of the things to look at here as well is the colors, right? We have a light blue on a transparent yellow, which means there's not a lot of contrast, and it really messes with our eyes. So it's very difficult to see. We want to make sure that there's clear contrast. And then we throw in a third color here with the purple that really doesn't make sense, and it doesn't work with what's going on. So this is where your brand really comes into play, where you are using your designated brand colors so you don't end up with things like this. The last thing that I consistently see people saying that there's something else wrong, but they can't quite put their finger on it. It's the margins. We never want to put logos, text, important information right up to the edges of the image or even too close to each other. And the reason being is because we're so accustomed to seeing margins and space around the edge of things that when there's not space, we're naturally trying to scroll or look to see if there's more info because it feels like it gets cut off. So this is why we really want to make sure there's extra space around the images. And that also prevents when we're looking at different devices and different sizes of phones that things don't get cut off as your images are getting cropped automatically by different platforms. All right, the next one. This looks so much better because we have space, we have things to visually see, right? Our focus is this guy who's at the office, he's enjoying his birthday cupcake, and we only have the critical information, which is easier office birthdays, birthday cupcakes delivered. We don't have too much. We've taken all of this information and put it into the caption. We don't have to have that on the graphic. So things look so much better. I feel like there's room to breathe now, says Miranda, and that's exactly right. When we're talking about visual space, it does feel claustrophobic when there's too much going on. And even though it really doesn't actually have anything to do with how much space there is for you to physically breathe, it kind of feels like that. So this is a very great example of why following that ABC design principle is really important, especially as a non-professional designer. All right. So
Megan,
let's get it. Yeah, go ahead.
I want you to go back, and I'm just going to share my screen real quickly and give a little bit of a sneak peek here on something. So one of the tools that we also use and educate about within our training academy is use of tools like ChatGPT. And so right now I'm using a custom GPT that we have created called the 910 Brand Assistant. And you can see here that you could imagine that, hey, I don't know what's wrong with this and I'm not sure what I could improve, but could I ask one of these smart generative AI tools? And you can hear I just, as Megan posted it, I just screenshotted both and I've asked it to give me a summary of, effectively design principles between one or the other. So one of the things that we also provide training on within these programs is quite often when you're learning all of these different tools and tactics across websites and social media and design, etc., you know enough to be dangerous, but sometimes you could just use a little bit of guidance or a little brainstorming help or a little bit of these tools to help you. So we provide a lot of coaching and assistance on how to best maximize these tools that every entrepreneur and small medium business should use to really level up on these new skills and tools that you're using as well. So I just wanted to show that. It's I remember we were doing a live webinar with another partner, and as Megan launched one of her improved designs, we brought it into ChatGPT to critique, and she got a passing grade on it, as it turned out. So back to you anyways, Megan.
Thank you. And Ryan's giving a little bit of a sneak peek as well for two sessions from now. We'll be doing a deep dive into ChatGPT. All right. So I want to dive into Canva. So we talked about the Canva or the visual brand guide. One of the reasons why Canva is so effective and so powerful is because of their Canva brand kits, where you can upload all of your brand assets, colors, fonts, logo variations, icons, backgrounds, everything that you need into Canva brand kits and have them available to you as you are designing. There are other brand kits available online. Brandworks is another one. But the thing that makes Canva in particular unique is that it has built this into their design platform specifically. So you have that integrated access, which is something that is unique to Canva. So it's really, really important. Has been a really excellent diversification for them in particular. So when you have your brand kits, you can upload them, and actually 910 we do this for our clients as well, is building this right in Canva for you so that you have access to all of this. You can add in all of your different logo variations. So we can see there's a bunch of different ones down here for 910. We can see all of the colors. One of the very consistent, what we call brand drift. So when you're not using consistency in your designs, one of the elements of brand drift that really, really often happens is color variation. When you're looking at something visually and you try and color match like that, you're never going to get it 100% every single time. Sometimes the color variation looks a little bit different based on what monitor you're looking at. And you can get close, but you're never going to get 100% right on. So when you have your color codes loaded directly into Canva, like in your Canva brand kit, you don't have to guess. You don't have to try and figure out what color am I using, and it reduces the likelihood of brand drift significantly. So this is
Megan, just a clarifying question from the group. Someone asked a good question. Can you have multiple brand kits? The answer is yes, and it's very useful. So you might be a marketing manager, or you might have a side hustle where you have the business you work for, plus, or maybe you have a brand kit for a not-for-profit organization that you're working with. So that's definitely really useful. And one thing to note, when we're designing logo and visual brand standards, we very much have in mind that we know that once the work is done, we deconstruct it, as what I say, and then we preload it into Canva so that all of the permissible versions of the logos and the assets are in there. And of course, Megan will speak more about that as well. So good question. Just a reminder for direct questions, if you put them in the Q&A, I'm less likely to miss them, whereas the chat is just really good for a lot of the active chat that's going on. I appreciate that.
Yes, you can absolutely add multiple brand kits, and it's incredibly easy to do. Add new, name it, and then fill in the blanks. And you can do this if you have sub brands, secondary brands, and like Ryan had mentioned, if you're working with the business and then also have a not-for-profit, there's lots of different options here for you as well. And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that for not-for-profits there is a discount for Canva Pro.
Yes, if you're a registered charity, for sure, maybe even a registered not-for-profit, you can get it for free, I believe. There's, of course, a couple hoops to jump through. You got to register and prove who you are and whatnot. But and many of the powerful software tools out there, if you reach out directly to them, there's usually charitable discounts. Good point.
Yeah. So I'm just seeing some questions in here. Is the brand kit available for the free version? No, it is just the professional, the paid version. But as Ryan has said in the chat, it is well worth it because there are so many other features available, which we'll also talk about in Canva Part 2 when we're looking at Canva Magic Studio. So the really cool new feature that Canva Brand Kits has available as well is something called Brand Voice. And this is tied to the Canva AI platform that they've built. Basically what it does is allows you to input exactly how you want your brand to sound through text. So when you are creating documents, captions, anything like that, you can use what they call Magic Write, and it will write something for you for the design that you've created in your voice that you've laid out. So this is a very, very cool tool that's new in the last few months here. So it's really neat. Also areas to add your icons and your graphic elements. So textures, backgrounds, graphic elements, like if you have like a wave or a circle or like those chevron patterns that we saw in some of the other, in that example with the chamber market, this is where they would go. You also have photography photos. So if you have a photo style that you like and you want to consistently use those branded photos, you can add them into your brand kit. So a lot of really, really great options here. I want to dive into the actual design part of it now because we've taken up a lot of time already and I don't want to get behind. So if you have any questions about Canva brand kits, how to set those up, put them in the Q&A, and Ryan and Ashley will be watching those as well. Or Trina, sorry. I think Ashley's also
going to the next one. There was questions about other alternatives. Canva is the leading standard, but Microsoft has just created one called, I think, Microsoft Design Studio. It's Microsoft, so it'll be good over time. There's Design Pickle, there's a bunch. For an agency, we chose to double down on the one that is the most innovative, has the most robust features, lots of development over time, and from our experience, has been the easiest to use of the ones we've tried as well.
Another newer one that's on the market is Adobe Express, but from my understanding, it does not incorporate your brand kit the way that Canva does. So it has a lot of the same tools and features, but it's not as robust. So there are other options out there. Canva is probably one of the most affordable and most robust platforms on the market. All right, I want to talk about some Canva design here. These designs professionally, they look professional, they're great. I designed these. I am not a graphic designer. I've never gone to graphic design school. You try and put me in Illustrator, I will have no idea. So these designs I've built using our Canva brand kit, using our brand standards that were created for us, and just put them together really, really easily. So one thing that I want to do, so what we'll do is I'll see the finished product here, and then we'll go through and actually create them together. So if we just add a new page here, I duplicated the page. So you can see there's lots of tools here. I'm just going to clean this off by deleting everything. Okay, so we're starting fresh, and this is our end goal, right? Very easily, we start with the background. So we work in layers. Anybody who's worked in other softwares before, particularly Adobe, will know layers. Basically what it is just how the image, the graphic is put together from back to front, front to back, how the elements sit on top of each other. So we usually start back to front with our background, and then we build our elements on top of that. So we want our background color. So we jump into our colors and we see our brand kit right here. So I'm going to click on our navy color, our dark blue color for the background here. Now, the next thing that I see here kind of is fundamentally part of it. I'm going to use the bottom banner there for our call to action, our register now. So I want to go into elements, and I see there's a bunch of different things here. These are going to change based on what you use consistently. I consistently use that little rectangle box, but it'll be under shapes. And if you even just search rectangle in the elements, you'll be able to find it. I'm just going to click on that. I'm going to bring it down to where I want it and resize it accordingly so that it is clear where everything is. All right, and the one thing that you'll also see in this image is this border here. This is the margin. So all of the logo, title, that kind of information is gonna go in here, right? We can also see this lovely little pink line that shows up. That shows us kind of where we are aligned in the image with our elements. So I am going to then go into our text section and add a heading. Now you'll remember in our brand kit, there was that section for fonts. So what you can do is pre-program your heading, subheading, text fonts to your brand. So our heading font is Montserrat. We've already programmed that. It is going to be different for everybody, but it makes it so much easier than having to sort through all the fonts and try and find one that looks kind of close to what you're looking for.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that all of that initial consideration when you're creating the brand kit, it's very important work, and you'll find that if you're using Canva without a properly configured Canva brand kit, the tool is really powerful, but you don't have it's like having a bunch of ingredients without a recipe book or something like that. So that is some of the work that we do when we create the brandings for our clients. We set up and configure and provide the training on the Canva as well, so it's ready to go for you.
Yeah. And you'll also notice here that I'm just taking particular consideration with the font here, right? So I clicked on this little button up here, which makes it uppercase without having to hit the caps lock. And the reason I'm doing that is because in our brand kit, this particular font used in this particular way is supposed to be all uppercase every time. And so I'm just pointing to that because it shows how important those brand standards are when you're working on designing things consistently. All right, so we have those two elements, good. The next thing I'm going to add in our photos because that kind of anchors us. So what I want.
Sorry, we've got a couple really good questions on typefaces and stuff like that, and the technical aspects of how we even got here still. So question from Andrew, can you upload your own typefaces?
Yes, you can. If you have official font files, so it'll be, I think it's a TTF or OTF or something like that file type, you are able to upload those to Canva in your brand kit itself. So yes, to answer your question.
And then how do you go ahead and set those margins that you have so nicely laid out?
These are auto set. So what you can do is you can go into File and View Settings, and I have margins shown. I can turn that off. So it's auto set based on what type of graphic you have. So I have a basic square social media post here. If it was a document that you're setting up, it's going to look a little bit different. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Megan, finish your sentence there. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say there are also options for print bleed. So if you are designing like a print file, like a poster or your business cards, you'll want to include print bleed. This is for your printer to be able to have that little extra space so there's no white border around when you send it off to them. There's also the option for guides. This basically just divides up your image, your graphic into equal parts so that you're able to more easily lay things out if that's something that you're looking at.
A relevant question from Lori Frank as well. Is there a way to copy and use the same section layout you always use? So whether you want to reuse a font, a layout, a set of layers, a design for a social media graphic or a carousel or whatever, you can create templates. And that's actually something I didn't mention when we're setting up for clients, establishing the Canva brand kit. What we also do is we design templates. And so this is actually interesting, is tied to your content strategy. So you could imagine we'd say, okay, Lori, so let's think about a month worth of social media posts that you're going to want to talk about. If you're a realtor, it might be, well, let's create some templates for open houses, for price reduction, for new listing, for key ceremony, for those happy buyers, for testimonials, and you could identify 10 different posts that you would like to design. Well, let's create some templates so that the next time you have a new listing or a price reduction, that's ready to go. You take the template, you swap out the picture of the house, you change the price, and everything's ready to go. So the templates is where it really starts to get powerful, and that's the key time saver as well. And so lots goes in there. It's one skill set to be able to build your own templates. You're a power user if you're there, but you can get really good results if you're not a power user, if you have a brand kit and templates. So I'm not a good designer. I'm lost, but if I have a Canva template, a Canva brand kit and templates, then I can do polished design in the same way that Megan can as well. Very good question.
Yes, excellent. And I can show you how to save your own designs as templates. So if you're doing this yourself and you're working and you're like, oh, I'm consistently creating designs for event registration, for example, I feel like I need a template for this. This is a good design that I like. I can save that, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So great question. And yes, absolutely. Using templates is game changing. Absolutely. All right. Some of the cool elements and tools that I want to show you. So for our photos here, we're using something called frames. And I'm just searching specifically for what I want. And if we look in frames, we can see there's these really interesting looking options that we have. So basically what this does is allow us to lock photos into place in the exact shape that we want. So there are custom shapes or a lot of options, not custom, but a lot of different options for different shapes for frames. But for this design, we want to use the circle. So I'm just going to resize this, bring this down to a good area. And I'm just using some keyboard shortcuts here. So on Windows, it's Control-C, and on Mac, it's Command-C. So I'm just copying that element. And then if you do Command-V or Control-V, I'm now pasted that. So what we can do there, I want to bring these together. Now this is just next level game changing. I'm highlighting both of those elements and I'm going to hit group. Now they move together. It is a very, very cool tool and I use this all the time. So I'm just going to bring that to about where it is up there. And it looks like those ones up there are a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to resize this. And you can see that as I'm going, I have this really cool, that pink line. It shows me that I'm right in the middle of the design there. So now if I go down into my folders, so all of these sections down here are folders that we've created in Canva and tools that we've used in Canva to be able to more easily design. So if I scroll down to our team headshots here and open this folder, we can see a whole bunch of images from our team. And I'm going to pull in Ryan's headshot here. I'm going to double click on the image. I'm going to ungroup because now I want to focus on just one. I'm going to double click on this image. I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to resize the image so you can see where the image is going to be in the frame without having to edit the actual photo itself. Now I'm going to do the same thing for my headshot here. And you can see as I drag it over top, it locks it into place. I'm just going to drag myself down a little bit, center my image. There we go. So now we have Megan and Ryan's pictures beautifully set up in the design.
Just quickly jumping in here, Megan, there's some questions about how to use Magic Write, and there will be some questions about more of the advanced features like Magic Write, generative AI, how do I create my own image stock, how do I use some of these smart AI tools. That's actually all in Canva Part 2. So who was asking that question? I think it was Jen. You're definitely going to want to join us for Canva Part 2, where these are some of the newer tools that have really followed suit with this craze of new powerful suite of business tools like ChatGPT. Canva's been really progressive in introducing some of these, and there's 2 or 3 that have been a game changer for my use, for sure, in Canva. So back to you, Megan.
Yes, thank you, absolutely. All right, so now I want an icon here to kind of marry those 2 pictures together. So I'm actually going to scroll all the way up to the top where we have our built-in Canva tools here, and I'm going to click on brand, because this is where our brand, we can access our brand kit through our editing portal. So if I scroll down here to the bottom, we see all of our icons. If I click on see all, that opens my entire icon library. And so I can go through and select any of these that I like to be able to upload into my design. So I think this one is a great one here. I'm going to resize it. And you can see where it locks into place in the image, right, for the frame. So we can just kind of adjust for that. And we're going to bring it down. I don't want it to do that, so I'm just going to hit undo. So I'm actually going to, you can see some of this is playing around, right? You can see where it's locking into place where I don't want it. If I click on these elements here, where it's locking into place and I don't want it to, I can come up here and hit the lock button. So now it's not going to move when I want it to. Okay, so now this one, and I'm making a fool out of myself here because I'm saying I want it locked. All right, there we go. Now it's locked. And we can set it in the middle. There we go. And now we have our lovely icon in front of our pictures, and it's great. Okay, so now we would add in the next parts of our texts, right? So we have our heading here for the webinar title. We're just going to resize it a little bit so that it looks nice And then I'm also going to add a subheading in here so that I can put the caption to the actual webinar in there as well. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger so that it makes a little bit more sense. All right, and everything is all aligned there really nicely. The next thing here is this section up here where we have our logos. We have the 910 logo and we have the Business Link logo. So in our brand kit, we can go back to our regular brand here, and we're jumping into logos. And I'm going to scroll down to find the 910 logo that I would like. And I'm just going to put that there. Maybe make it a little smaller.
Megan, you'll get a kick of a funny question. Private question. How often do you use the corn on the cob icon? Well, whenever it's a harvest time, we have custom icons, of course, for Christmas, for Halloween, for this. We're a design agency, so we can create these fairly easily, but we're always adding to our Canva brand kit, including ridiculous icons to represent the different holidays. Good question. And just while I'm talking here, Megan, I've seen from your, just watching you in Canva, you've really grown, not only because you're one, getting the training and focusing on best practices and staying on top of the features by doing the tutorials, but you practice. So for everyone as well, practice is key. And in our training academy, what you learn in this week, you practice the next week, and then you come back and you learn more. So the training academy isn't about just learning the theory from a book. It's a hands-on practical in the trenches, and we've seen our students advance only if they're willing to practice what they're learning. And of course, this is true of pretty much learning any new trade. So back to you.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Brian. With Canva, you can upload your own photos and logos and things like that aren't necessarily in your brand kit. So the Business Link logo, for example, that's not in our brand kit, but we can still upload it and use it. So this upload section, you can see there's a lot of different images and graphics and different logos and things in here. So this is where we would pull in our Business Link logo that we've uploaded, and you can see it showing up on the image here. And now I can just move it around, size it a little bit.
And if you name the file with a descriptive name before you upload it, then you could search for it. And yes. I may have been guilty of uploading too many files for Megan, and I don't name them, and then it's clumsy to find. So again, how you use the tool and your attention to detail on organizing and keeping it clean goes a long way as well.
Exactly. And I'm just watching the time here as well, and I want to make sure we still have time to go through everything else. So one really fundamentally amazing thing about Canva is that you can copy and paste elements from different designs into your new design. So if you wanted to use, for example, this element, I can copy it and paste it. And it's going to show up in the same style, same size, same place in one design as it does in the place that you copy it to. So it's a very, very time-saving tool. I use it every single day. Same with the grouping tool. And then I'm not going to have time to go into everything that I really wanted to, but a couple of the other really fundamental tools in Canva that I use regularly is our position tool. So if you have, I'm just going to unlock these elements here. If I highlight all of these elements here and I click on the position tool, there are some very cool tools in here. This side is called the arrange. So you can move your layers front to back here, or you can align them based on where they are selected. So if I hit top align, all of those elements are going to move to the top of that box. If I want it middle aligned, it's going to all center on that X axis there. The left align, right align, bottom align, center align, that's going to be that Y axis. So there's really excellent tools here, especially if you have like a list of things like icons or pieces of text that you want aligned. It's a very helpful tool. The other thing
I was just gonna say, what we find is once our students get pretty competent, they're making good color choices, good font choices. The thing that starts to get them to the point where people think they're professional designers is when they're really effectively using spacing, buffer, alignment. Their bullet points are in perfect alignment. They both are equally distant from the left and the right panel. And it's exactly these kind of tools that, again, practice, practice, practice. Hey, Megan?
Yes, yes, practice is huge. And you'll start being able to visually see when things look better and more professional as you practice more too. The other tool in here is something called Space Evenly. So again, for lists and a lot of multiples of icons or elements, spacing evenly, vertically, horizontally, or even just kind of tidying up so they look nicely aligned is time saver to the max. So you don't have to manually adjust every element so it's exactly the right number of pixels away from the last one. All right. I want to show you how to save as a template, because that was a question that came up earlier. So when we go into our share button, there's this little section here. These icons here will not show up for everybody every time. It's based on what you consistently use. So brand template is the one that you're going to want to select. If it doesn't show up in this panel here, you can click more and search for it. So brand template, again, is the one that we want to use. And this will allow you to save it to a particular folder. And when you hit publish, it will save it as a brand template that you can then go and use every single time. When you open up a new template or open up a template that you have saved, it will ask you, use this template or edit original. You always want to use this template. So then you're recreating the design rather than like changing the original every single time. So just a note on that one there.
Megan, just a clock check, and I'll answer a quick question. There's a good question here. What happens if you have selected an image from the web that you would like to use for a logo, however, it needs some customization or editing? The first thing is to make sure if you're choosing stuff from the open web, you need to have rights to use those. So although lots of people do it as technically trademark infringement, copyright infringement to be grabbing stuff from the open web, you do need to have rights to use it. But assuming you have rights and you need to edit it, Canva is not really the editing tool for that. You would usually use a professional designer using a tool of trade like Illustrator to edit a logo or to create an asset or an element. There are some editing tools you'll see in part 2 in the Magic Studio for erasing some things and expanding some items and whatnot, some graphic elements. But generally, any graphic element should be designed in a proper tool and then uploaded to Canva along with proper usage rates. Back to you, Megan.
And I do want to expand on that as well, because I can talk about Canva being so amazing all day, every day. They don't even pay me to do that. Like, I'm doing them a favor for free. So man, maybe Canva and 910 should set up a partnership, but Canva does have its limits. It is not going to be the end for everything that you need for design. Like Brian mentioned, there are graphic elements that you need a professional designer to do for you. And the reason for that is because, one, and I've gotten this question a lot, there is a logo designer in Canva. I really strongly recommend you do not use it. And the reason being is because they are not original logos. These have been created and uploaded by people and are open access. So anyone who has a Canva Pro account is able to get those. They're not going to be unique to you. They're not going to be special. They might look pretty, but they're not going to be meaningful. And so I really highly recommend you don't use it for that reason, but also because you need extra care taken into your logos, especially and other graphic elements, to make sure that you are getting the proper files and logo and design types for all of your marketing. When you are working with professional vendors like printers, embroidery, you want swag, branded swag, your vendor is going to need a particular type of file that Canva cannot produce for you. So if you want any of those extra things, you are going to need those particular file types. And if you have designed your logo in Canva, you have a really beautiful PNG file, for example, and you go to your designer and say, hey, I need this turned into a vector file, for example, or a design file for this particular vendor, they're going to have to recreate the design. So they might have the image, that they have to redesign it essentially in their programs. So
Megan,
we're
just a flag
doing
here on time. We're about
yeah.
11:50. We'll want to make sure that we cover the special offer before some people will almost certainly have to leave at noon. So let's
Yes.
maybe move on to the next part.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to do. So just I wanted to give that clarification there. But jumping into coming up next, we have our Canva AI part 2. That's next month. And then after that, we're going into some AI deep dives, specifically looking at ChatGPT. And then we'll go focus on email marketing, so looking at leveraging your client lists there. So definitely watch for those. Canva part 2 is already available. And then we have our special offer. So Ryan, go ahead and talk about this.
Yeah, so we did a little bit of research in terms of, okay, so if when professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners are investing in education, where does the value come in the learning environment? And this is true for if you're going to university, if you're doing learning in any trade. Effectively, 10% of the value of the sort of what's really going to move the needle for you in learning is what's called the formal learning. It's the books, it's the reading, it's all of that material that typically comes along with that. So our training academy does have that. It's the formal curriculum of which you go through to get certified. And that provides about 10% of the learning, where the outcomes kind of really come from. The next part is what they call social learning. And this is for anyone who's ever been in school. They've read the readings, or maybe they skipped the readings, but they showed up in class and they participated and they asked questions and they paid attention to the conversation, and they after the class was done, they had conversations about it with their fellow peers and students. 20% of the learning comes from that. So within our community, not only do you have the curriculum that you're going through, which is necessary for the formal certification that you can get, you also will get just a whole lot of the value from being in our community, learning alongside other peers, and peppering the instructors with questions along the way as well. But 70%, the lion's share of your learning, is what we call experiential learning, or in the trenches, or the practice. So what you're learning, you will apply. And then when you apply it, you will make mistakes, or you'll find opportunities for improvement, or you'll have really great questions and you'll come back. And so that iteration is kind of like doing the reps. So I just wanted to note that when you're in our community, the focus of that is predominantly the 20, that 90% of the value comes from learning in a peer group while practicing. And then of course, what's guiding you is the formal curriculum. So back to you, Megan.
Thanks so much. Yes. So we have a couple different options, as Ryan mentioned. We have our formal curriculum, which our flagship offering is the Digital Marketing Professional. This is a dual certification that's set up with the Digital Marketing Institute and the American Marketing Association. So that is the leading standard for marketing in North America. This is a 6-month program that sets you up to do day-to-day professional digital marketing in whatever capacity. We have some specialists. These are more for digital marketing leaders as well, like if you were managing and leading an entire team or division. And then we also have short courses, which are a 3-month focus rather than a 6-month, and are specific for certain areas. So more for upskilling in a specific area. There are 3 new courses that have just been introduced in the last month here. An AI course, there is a new leadership course as well. And then another one, I am just slipping my mind at the moment, but there are 3 new ones that are being incorporated into the program as well. So this is the first 10%. This is the formal curriculum. So then we get into
Megan, go back there. I just want to speak to we will have a special offer at the end, and I'll pop that link in a moment. I'm just mindful of time. Exclusively for business link stakeholders that come to us via these webinars, you'll see that there's a discounted price there. So whether you're taking a short course or the professional certification, there is on the professional certification, there's a $500 savings via coming this route. But on top of that discounted price, you can also still qualify for the Alberta Job Grant. So I'd say 90% of our students have gone through the Alberta Job Grant, where they can get 66% subsidy covered of the regular price or the discounted price if they're coming through one of these offerings, which we'd heavily suggest, if you're interested, come through this flow that we're talking about here. So on to the next one, Megan.
Yes. So this is the other 90%. So that's social learning. This is where we get that classroom environment. We have twice weekly live classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays in our community. So that's where we connect with our network of peers, we connect with other industry experts, and we learn from each other. We also have the experiential learning. So we take what you're learning and actually apply it to your individual business and different campaigns, programs, those kinds of things as well. So you get a lot of that hands-on learning and get to practice sharing feedback and hear feedback from other students as well. So we are offering this at $175 a month moving forward. So your offer is the first 2 months in the digital marketing training community for free. So this is $350 towards those first 2 months. That is that 90% that we were talking about. So those live classes, all of that extra material from leading industry experts, communication and conversation with peers and things like that. So that's 2 months for you for free. And then you continue in the learning community for $175 a month as long as you would like.
Yeah, a quick note on that.
Yeah.
We do some really interesting stacking for our small business and entrepreneur friends. The $175 a month drops once you become certified. If you take the flagship offering, you become a certified digital marketing professional. Raise your hand if you're a certified digital marketing professional, Megan. Then the fee actually drops to $150. You'll see that decrease as you become more competent as well.
Yeah. And then you also get 15 to 20% off the course cost. So that's a green price listed in that program slide. That's what that is specifically for you. So all of that can be accessed through the link here that Ryan has put in the chat box as well. So to register, just fill out the form that is there and we'll reach out to you to get you set up and started. So I'm really excited about this. This is a really excellent opportunity. We have some amazing students in there currently who are community leaders in Alberta and small business owners. So really exciting things happening. I will get to know you very well if you come and join. So I really hope that I get to meet some of you, see your faces, and participate in some really cool discussions with all of you.
Just a little anecdote before we pass it back to Trina. Following our last webinar, we had many people reach out, either interest in the free trial to join the training program. Some actually reached out about our website services or our branding. And one in particular, we have a company that we're now working to develop a logo and a visual brand standards. And then we're timing that such that just as we're completing the brand guide and we're handing it over to them in their Canva brand kit, that's where they're going to start their 2-month trial. So during the 2-month free trial, they can really get the ropes, they can really get in the trenches and really maximize the Canva Design School that we have in there as well. So so if the training academy is or isn't a fit, or you're not sure, but you might have some other needs related to branding or web, there's lots of great programs out there between Alberta Job Grant, CDAP, Business Link has tons of resources. If you're a small, medium business entrepreneur, reach out, get the support and the resources you need. So Megan, if you don't have anything else, I don't think I have anything else, and we can hand it over to Trina.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for joining us today. As a reminder, you will be emailed a link to a recording of this webinar within the next couple of days. That link will be for the YouTube channel, and then we'll include all of this wonderful information that Megan and Ryan have provided as well. We are continuing our Canva journey, talking about Magic Studio, AI tools, all that sort of fun stuff next month. So please register for that webinar on Eventbrite. We've dropped the link a couple times, but it'll also be in the email, no worries. It is taking place Thursday, March 21st, and we hope that you can join us for that one too. Thank you again to Megan and Ryan for sharing your knowledge, and thanks everybody for attending. As a final reminder, you can learn more about Business Link and our programs at businesslink.ca. Hope you all have a great day. Bye.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Business Link, appreciate the opportunity.